What is up, MFers? I hope you guys had an amazing Christmas or whatever you guys choose to celebrate with your family. And as we kind of get to the end of 2024, I'm always looking back, studying my past fish catches, my mechanics, and kind of going through the tackle I need to load the boat up for the next year. And I thought it would be an interesting time to talk about some of my best and some of my worst baits from 2024. You guys watched a lot of it go down with videos fishing the Elite Series all across the country, plus a ton of videos down here in Texas, up north, and a lot of the places that I generally fish, and even going back to Nebraska this summer. I fished all over the place, and I think it's really interesting to talk about some of the baits that were absolutely terrible for me, that I had so little success on, as well as the ones I had the most success on in 2024, because a lot of these baits would really surprise you. Some of them are staples I've had in my arsenal that just for whatever reason didn't get bit in 2024. Some of them are baits that I had never used before and I put to the test, and you guys flat out didn't see them in videos because they sucked. Some of them cost $100 a piece, and I still can't figure it out. Regardless, it's gonna be a fun video, so strap in, let's go through them. So I don't really have like a number 1 or a number 5 best or worst bait for this video, but I'm just gonna kind of run through them all and explain why I think I caught them on it, why I think I didn't catch them on these baits. And I just need you to do one thing for me really quick. Drop a comment down below with either your worst bait or your best bait for 2024. Like I said, some of these are going to surprise you guys because they're baits you guys have seen me catch them on for like 5, 6, 7, 8 years in my videos. Flat out did not perform this year. And as I'm going to say multiple times, some of that could be due to circumstance. Where I fished wasn't super conducive to the bite. Some of it was just because I didn't even throw it hardly the entire year, but it still was surprising enough that it made my list. And some of it flat out is because the bait wasn't as effective, because I personally think, everything's different. The pressure is so much higher. There's so many more people on the water. The fish are constantly being conditioned. So I guess let's just dive into it. Let's go with a surprising one for me. Let's go with the worst lure first in 2024. This one right here. This might surprise you, but I use a Senko, a clout, like everyone does, a damn stickworm. I don't know if I caught a damn bass on a stickworm, a Senko, a clout in 2024. I might have caught them on like a flick shake on this thing, and I throw some different worms on a flick shake. But I'm talking about either Texas rigged or wacky rigged. I don't know if I caught one on a stickworm in 2024. Disclaimer to that is I barely threw it. I don't know why. I guess maybe it was just something that I'm not gonna say it's forgotten. How is a Senko? It's like the catchingest bait of all time. How is that not in my arsenal? I mean, we even saw Corey Johnston win an Elite Series event mostly on a stickworm. Now, one thing I do think will change a lot, 2025, I think I'm going to be fishing a lot more shallow fisheries. That's going to be a lot more conducive to throwing a stickworm. And so it's not something that I've given up on. It's not something that I even think is, getting worse at any point. I think I just didn't throw it very much because it's not a very effective way to break down bodies of water quickly. And I fished almost all brand new bodies of water to me in 2024. So, slowly, methodically picking apart shallow fish wasn't really ever part of the game plan. As we move forward, I think this will definitely still be a player in my arsenal, but just wasn't for whatever reason in 2024. So full disclosure, I'm not going to be super sponsory in this video, so not everything's going to be 6 cents, and some of the stuff that wasn't working is going to be 6 cents. So you guys know I'm an owner of 6 cents, and we have so many different facets and different baits and all different genres and categories in the tackle industry, but there's a lot of stuff that I use that's not 6 cents that we're going to talk about today too. But for me, the most surprising bait was this bait right here that's going to be released either, I think next week, either January 3rd or the 7th. I don't know. I'm bad at reading emails and just about anything else besides catching fish, But that is this bait called the Ozzie right here. Yes, it is somewhat named after my son, Ozzie. So I'm a little bit biased, but I'm not going to bullshit you guys. This bait, it looks so like plain and nothing. And Casey, the 6 Cents founder and president, he brought this to me and he's like, dude, what do you think about this design? It's just like, I'm not sure what it's going to be or what it really fits in as far as a genre or category. Obviously you can do a lot of different things with it, but he's like, play with it, see what you think. And I put this thing on a jig head and immediately noticed it has a crazy rolling action due to, I don't know, its shape, its little segmented part back here. I'm not sure what it is. And what I really figured out was it didn't matter if it was smallmouth or largemouth. They eat this thing across the country. My predominant way to fish it is on that jig head, but of course it makes a great chatterbait trailer. We're going to talk about that in a second, but it goes great. A nice meaty chatterbait trailer. It's just one of those baits that's not super realistic looking. It's a profile. It's a hue of a color that the fish just freaking. It's a bait that just gets bit. It's just, I don't know what else to say, but be on the lookout. These are going to get released. They're going to be cheap. They're going to be one of the cheapest strolling baits that's deadly effective. And the reason that I truly say that it's a bait that surprised me this year was I had no idea starting the year that this would even be in my boat or be a bait that we'd be bringing to production, which we didn't this year. It's going to be, in the next week in 2025. But I was blown away by how effective this guy was for me, and it truly is going to be on my deck 365 days a year, which is obviously a good thing. Okay, back over to the worst baits in 2025 for me. Now this bait is one that I caught one of my key fish in my open that I won in 2023 in the opens. I don't know if I caught a damn fish on it in 2024, and that is the damn Clash. Again, victim to circumstance? Potentially, but I don't know. It's just like I find so many of these hard bottom areas, these points, these rocks, these just great areas where I love to throw a crank down, and crank downs just did not get bit for me in 2024. Did they for you? Did they across the country? Probably. Again, a victim of circumstance, potentially, of where we fished, and if I threw it much, I'm not going to go out and say that I threw this bait every time I went out fishing, but this thing stayed on my deck a lot. It stayed tied up a lot. I love to be able to throw a crankbait, a bait that I could grind on the bottom, but also has that bigger fish appeal and is, just a little bit more natural than a crankbait in 2024. And it just didn't get bit for me. I don't freaking know why. I'm not the type of guy that, like Austin, my buddy Frosted, just dropped a mixtape, or maybe not a mixtape. I guess it was more just a music video. Go check that out. But he loved this bait when he was in North Carolina. Now he's kind of traveling the country. But he fished it a lot without that lip in and fishing around shallow cover docks, stuff like that. That's not an application that I really used or played with a lot. But I throw this thing this size, the tiny and the K9, crank down mode for the most part, and I just did not freaking catch them. Am I going to use it in 2025? Absolutely. But I need to find different ways to catch fish on it. I got one method, one retrieve that I'm going to be working on a lot more that I think is going to make this bait effective. And again, just like the stickworm, going to different shallow fisheries, especially spawn time, and places you want to cover a lot of water, especially in practice. I think this bait's still going to have a huge place in my arsenal. It just didn't catch him in 2024. Okay, let's go back over to the side where I crushed him on it in 2024. And again, this one's kind of surprising to me because I didn't dislike this genre of bait before this season, but it's something that I kind of tried to stay away from because everyone's thrown it forever. And I like to throw things that are different and more subtle and more natural a lot of times. But of course I'm talking about this guy right here, the old bladed jig, especially this one. This is almost the only one that I use these days, made by my buddy Brad. We call it the Bradder bait. Zark's buddy Brad, you guys saw him go to a trip up north with us with me and Zark and Austin and Cole. And Brad's a great dude. Don't ask where you can get one. He doesn't have the time to make, a million of these for you guys, but deadly effective chatterbait, bladed jig style. Again, could have been a lot because I was trying to cover more water, and this was just a better bait for me. And I'm going to talk about a bait that is very similar to this that I always have caught them on in the past that I barely caught them on at all this year. But yeah, this Bradder bait from 3/8 to 3/4 ounce size. I usually am throwing the half. Sometimes I go to 3/4. But this thing was deadly effective. Again, this was a surprising trailer for me as well. That's that Ned Busa trailer. If I want this bait to hunt, and then when it clears the grass to really have that side dart back and forth action, as opposed to just a straight wind and a straight, vibrating, blasting through grass action, I'll throw this Ned Busa. Great hunting bait trailer. This Ozzie is great, like I said, on the back of a chatterbait. I mean, it gives it a really nice chatterbait profile. And then, of course, when I want a really subtle trailer that doesn't have a lot of hunting, but again, is super effective, juggle minnow right there. You guys have seen the juggle forever. So, I don't know, bratterbait, chatterbait, bladed jig, whatever you want to call it, crazy effective for me in 2024 in all different types of fisheries, but especially grass fisheries, of course. So again, while the bratterbait, the bladed jig, was super effective for me, a bait that was not effective for me that I've caught them on forever, that I just used because I wanted to be different than everyone throwing this bladed jig right here, is this guy, unfortunately, right here. The old swim jig. Is a swim jig done? Never gonna catch fish for people ever again? Fish don't eat anymore? Absolutely not. I'm probably, again, gonna throw this bait because of circumstance, because of the fisheries I'll be at this next year. I'm gonna throw this bait a lot more than I did in 2024. But I don't know why, for whatever reason, I just did not catch them good on this. I mean, I caught some fish on it. It just wasn't as big a part of my arsenal as it has been in years past. That could be, again, because I think you can more effectively, deeper fish this bratterbait, this chatterbait to get reaction strikes. And this is, to me, the swim jig is a lot more of a shallow, cover, just a subtle approach to cover water. And I didn't do that a lot this last year for whatever reason. I know a lot of people are going to say, oh, it's because you're doing forward-facing sonar the whole time. No. This is super effective no matter what sonar you're using, and it's a bait that will be effective till the end of time. It just wasn't for me in 2024. A lot of it, again, victim of circumstance, and I don't know. Well, we'll just kind of see how this next year goes with it. I have 100% faith that the swim jig still catches fish extremely well. I mean, look at that damn thing. How natural is that? And I just didn't freaking make it happen with it this year. I'm going to just chalk that up as I'm an idiot. Okay, so this one is a bait that I caught them great on this year. And it's not going to be a surprise to you guys, but I wanted to bring it up because I opened up some doors with this thing. And that is, of course, the jerkbait. This is the 6 Cents Provoke. I mean, it's 2024 going into 25. Everyone's throwing jerkbaits, but one, this was the most effective color for me by far, which is Milliken's Ghost. It was a new color that I came out with for 6 cents this year. I honestly could probably throw this only as a jerkbait color and catch them the rest of my life if I had to pick one color. But one thing that I really opened the door up with this bait and this presentation is fishing it all year long. This is a bait, I think I had a jerkbait on my deck almost every single day of every event, of every fun fishing, whatever day that I fished, whether I was fishing for smallmouth in 50 feet of water, whether I was fishing in backwaters in the mud, I freaking had this guy tied on at all times. And God, it's gonna be that way, I think, moving forward. You are not gonna be able to go anywhere and not have a jerkbait tied on. This used to be, for me, a winter sub 60 degree water bait, and that was about it. Moving forward, it's a 365 day a year bait, for me anyways, because you can target fish everywhere in the water column. Of course, it's hard to target fish deeper than 15 or 20 feet as long as the water's not super clean and they can't come up forever from it. But you can target fish that are on the bottom. You can target fish that are on ledge schools. You can target fish that are suspended on timber, floating out in the middle of nowhere, on grass edges, over the top of structure, covered next to docks. There's almost nowhere you can't throw this thing besides super heavy cover. And even then, we've kind of learned with forward-facing sonar, those fish don't just sit in cover in one spot or just move from one piece of cover and hunker down and sit there all the time. They're constantly moving, and if they're not set up in that cover right now, they're probably about to be moving around in the next 30 seconds, if not the next minute. So very effective, deadly bait that it's always going to be on my deck, especially that Milliken's Ghost color. It's been killer for me this year. Let's kind of stick with a similar genre, and this is a bait that came out this last winter, and I'm not gonna say I'm above buying other companies' baits or anything like that. I'm definitely not bad mouthing this bait because I don't like the company, or they're not 6 cents, or I think that they're trash for being a big private equity corporate company, because some of that might be true, but I still use a ton of their products and I have forever. But they came out with this bait. This is the Berkeley Credge, by the way, but they came out with this bait this last winter, and the idea of it was, you know, it's a revolutionary game changer because it wobbles backwards down to fish, and then you can rip it, and it comes up and darts side to side, and it's real aggressive because you can throw it down to fish that are on brush or whatever down deeper, and then you can work it up away from them, and it goes back to them. The idea of it was fine. When I saw it come out, I said that's probably not going to work because bass, from what I've found, especially down here in these Florida strains, they do not react well to hard baits that sink fast, like a jerkbait, a glide bait. When I weight them, I want them to sink so slow if they do sink. And I just like, that's gonna be a negative cue to those fish. But curiosity got the best of me like it does. I spend way too much money on freaking tackle, and guess what? This bait lived up to my expectation, which is the fish barely eat it, and if they do eat it, there's probably something that could have caught them better. A sinking hard bait, minnow style bait like this, it might get those fish keyed up on the fall or when they first see it, but it's a negative cue that it's just, to me, there's so many other baits that you can catch them so much better on a jig head minnow, that I think, than something like this. 100% of the time. I guarantee some of you guys watching this are like, I freaking crushed them on that bait. That was a great bait for me. But in reality, you know, I think this is a bait that is not going to stay out super long unless they really want to push this bait. It got talked about by a lot of the guys promoting this bait in the winter, like it was about to, you know, change the fishing industry. And then have you seen this bait in a top 10 photo gallery in any tournament this entire year? I haven't on the major tournament level, and I follow it pretty close. Is that because guys are secretly using it, but they only want to show their sponsor baits, or they don't want to show a secret? I don't think so, but it's possible. I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. But yeah, that one was a dud for me this year for sure. Moving on to the Ketchum side. This one's not going to surprise people. You've seen me with it all year. Again, I'm not going to be super sponsory here, but the 6 Cents Congo Craw came out this last year. Again, it was surprising to me, kind of like the Ozzie, because it was a new bait that came out. When I saw it come out, I was like, that's going to be a killer for me. I'm going to catch him on that. And it did live up to the hype. It did live up to what I hoped it would be. I've run this bait on about every single type of rig that you possibly could. My favorite way to fish it probably is still as a jig trailer. It's also really good on the swing head, as you guys have seen forever. And what I think I just love the most about it is it's got two different styles of appendages. And so if you want, you know, on a swing head, I like to throw it with the wide flaps. So I just tear off these inside flaps. As a jig trailer, I can do both. I like to mix it up. Sometimes I'll do the wide stance, you know, short, compact profile. Sometimes I'll just have the little tiny flappy legs. I'll rip off the outside ones. I just like to mix it up and see what the fish want. And of course, have I noticed that there's a huge difference in the profile that the fish like? No, I catch them on both ways. I don't know, I probably overthink things way too much. And a fish is either active and it's gonna eat or it's not. But I like the ability to change it up, give them a little bit different profile, different look. And again, you could literally do whatever with this. You could throw it on a damn chatterbait. You could throw it on a buzzbait as a trailer if you want to skip it, if you want to get more flap and more drag. And that's one thing about this bait, that if you haven't used one yet, it will blow your mind the first time you use it. If you put it on like a Texas rig or a free rig, this thing has so much drag if you leave all four flappers on. It's unlike any bait that I think I've ever used as far as drag. When you're reeling it back in, it feels like you have a wad of grass on there, but you get it in and it's like, oh, that's just how hard this bait's pulling. And so, you know, it's putting out a lot of presence, a lot of profile, displacing a ton of water. And as a free rig, a Texas rig, it's great for that as well. There's a million craw baits in the market. There's a million creature baits on the market. As someone that's constantly traveling around, it simplifies it so much to be able to just carry one bait that covers a lot of those different presentations I'm looking for. And that was this one for me in 2024. Okay, I got two more baits over here on the shitter side. And this one, again, saddens me. It really surprised me. But we're going hair jig. The freaking hair jig, man. I love this bait. It's so subtle. It's so natural. It's a freaking deadly bait, whether I'm, you know, fishing for offshore schools, whether I'm scoping fish that are kind of cruising around out offshore. I don't know why. I just could not get them to eat and react to the old hair jig in 2024 like I thought I, you know, would always be able to. Is that pressure? Is that it could be pressure. I don't know what it is. I mean, it's still an effective bait, obviously. My buddy John Garrett won at the Harris chain, throwing some crankbaits, but also mixed in a hair jig to catch some really big, really key fish that helped him win that tournament. It still is catching fish around the country, and again, 1,000% will be throwing it in 2025, but it could be a pressure deal. But this bait is kind of just like, it's the dumbest looking white fluff ball that continuously keeps catching them as time goes on. It's one of the most old school fishing techniques that was kind of like what's old is new again type deal the last few years for me, I thought, and it didn't catch them for me in 2024. Circumstance, possibly. Pressure, possibly. More people throwing it, very possible. I'm trying to think back, like the pre-spawn tournaments, it wasn't a player for me. I didn't throw it much because it's just not a bait I throw that much that time of year. In the summer tournaments, you know, really, I just never got it going with this bait. If I had been fishing elsewhere, maybe, you know, somewhere with like that 3-foot visibility water, 2 to 4 foot visibility water, and I got on a good offshore schooling bite, I guarantee I could pick up some fish on this bait. Maybe the biggest fish in the group. Just didn't happen for me this year. Don't know why, just didn't. Okay, this one is gonna be my last bait that was one of my best baits of 2024. It's very, very boring and not exciting, but sometimes that's what makes baits the best, because you don't gotta think about it too hard, you just go out and throw them. And it's funny that it's this bait right here, this Divine Shaky worm. Didn't matter if it was a 6-inch size or 6'3" or the 7-inch size. Again, a bait that stays on my deck year round, even when I don't want it to. I'm like, no, I'm not gonna put a freaking free rig worm on the deck. We're fishing, you know, this type of lake or this type of lake. And I'm just like, you know, I'm having a tough morning, kind of having a tough day working through it. I'm like, fuck it, I'm gonna pull it out. And I pull it out and I start catching them on it. I was catching them on this bait in January down here in Texas last year. The last time I went out here in Texas, last week, I was catching them on it, and I caught them every month in between. This bait is just like, it catches them. A shaky head worm is going to be good forever. It's cool. It's almost like nostalgic at this point that this was the very first soft bait that 6 Sense came out with, and I tested it with Casey, and we crushed them on this small size in a situation where we shouldn't probably have been catching them on it. It just worked so well. And nothing changed. It's still a bait 2025 that's going to crush them. I fished the 7-inch one on a free rig and almost exclusively, and I fished this one on a Nico rig a lot. I'll also fish on a shaky head. I'm not going to push it to you guys. I'm not trying to screw you or be a snake oil salesman. The proof is in the pudding. I caught them on this bait all over the country. I caught smallmouth and largemouth. Mostly it's a largemouth bait for me, but I caught spotted bass on it too down at Smith Lake. Like, I don't know, man. You don't have to get it, but you're missing out. I'm just telling you. Last but not least, let's talk about a bait that I was excited about it, and I spend, you know, thousands of dollars each year on JDM tackle. I'm always trying to get an edge. I'm trying new stuff, and there's baits that I didn't talk about here that I have an inkling that I'm learning them and I'm getting better with them, and I'll talk about them with you guys in the future. But this one right here is one that was winning like everything, or maybe it is. I don't even know. I didn't keep up with it like this year, but it was winning everything in Japan like last year, and so I got excited about it. I was like, I gotta get some. I get on eBay and I see how expensive they are, and I'm like, ooh, I hope the sumbitch works. But that's this guy right here. This is called the Quakey from Hide Up. And again, I've caught a few fish on this bait. It's a bait that I'm not giving up on, but it was just not as effective as I hoped it would be in 2024. Yes, if you go through some of the prices on this one and some of the other sizes, they do sell for upwards of $100 a piece for a soft bait. I didn't pay that, luckily, but and I kind of like how it's a different type of material that's not gonna just rip off your hook every single fish you catch on it. Hopefully, yeah. I probably just suck, but I didn't catch them on this bait. It was not nearly as effective as I thought it could have been. Of course, it looks stupid as hell. You guys are probably like, well, of course that bait wouldn't work. Look at the damn thing. I don't know, 2025, maybe this will be the only bait that I ever need to throw. But I was disappointed by how the fish reacted to something like this. I'm always trying to throw new things to them, throw crazy looking shit at them to see what they'll do. I was hoping that this would be one of those where like the fish won't touch anything they've seen before, and then they see this and suck it in, and it worked about as good as it looks like it would work, which was damn near not at all. Okay guys, that's a wrap on my best and worst baits of 2024. Do me a favor again, drop a comment down below if you guys just want to let me know what your best and worst was. And then if you could, I know like I said last video, a lot of you guys are not subscribed, but you watch every video, so if you could, hit the subscribe button. I know it's old and cringy that everyone's been asking people to do that from the beginning of time, but as we go into the new year, I'd love to see as many of you guys on board as possible because we got a lot of cool stuff coming up. Thanks for watching this MFers. Have a great, happy new year, hopefully with your loved ones, and be safe. I'm going to go have some fun with my family. All right, MFers, I'm out here. Peace.
I'm not sorry. I can't help